We are going to dive into the topic, the subject, the question of the dark night of the soul and the transition that humanity appears to be in at the moment, and your part, our part in this, because we're all here to play our part. So first of all, I invite you to, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. That helps the video to get seen. And I invite you to close the eyes and just take a moment to return fully your attention to yourself. To the most quiet, placeless place of your own being. How easy it is just to close the eyes and just to return to your being. Regardless of what is going on the world platform, on the screen of consciousness, regardless of what is unfolding, seemingly out there, just your being, it never ever changes underneath all the surface movements. This inner sweetness. Welcome. Welcome here. I invite you to open the eyes and the dark night of the soul. That's a term that has been used to describe what many go through. It's not necessary, it's not required, but many go through. So let's start with what appears out there in the world seems to have gone crazy, and even the most ordinary human being, anybody who's hasn't been on some spiritual search, anybody, just anybody, can now not avoid to notice that it's all getting more and more and more intense, and more and more and more nonsensical, senseless, bizarre, wild, mind-blowingly. It's blowing whatever you held as any kind of stable belief is being blown out of the window, because whatever you took to be the reality is being shown as like, oh, well, see that? Meaningless. It can all change and fall apart in any moment. It's all being blown, and the most bizarre news. It can't get any more bizarre, and yet it does. And this we're seeing on the, like, if you look on the screen of consciousness that appears as the world out there, although there's nothing out there, which is a great paradoxical shared experience. And what's happening is there is a collective belief in the world, in a world, the world. And whatever we believe in, it takes reality. And we are, and we will be seeing that more and more and more. Whatever you believe into, it takes a reality. So when you get a whole group of people believing into one thing, that actually appears as real. It takes a reality. And so we're living in a time now where, like never before, the contrast of a falling apart, a crumbling, of all that we've held to be true out there in the world is unstoppable. And it's on schedule. It's part of a cycle, a global cycle. It's the end of a civilization. I was talking about this since 15 years, and people thought I was nuts, you know. The end of a civilization and the birthing of what we've never known before. And I do feel that now people can see that. They don't need anyone to tell them that. They can see that. What you've never known before is right on the horizon constantly. And this has a dark side and a light. There's as much darkness as there is light. It's the same thing turned on its head. So oftentimes it's been in spiritual, just letting someone in spiritual on the spiritual search, it's been known and reported down the ages that when someone's coming really, really close to the dissolution of the ego, to break open into real self-realization, there is a period of time of deep despair. And it's my observation that this is often happening at the same time. At the same time that there is a dying to whatever you've believed in, whatever you've taken yourself to be who you are, and you've really identified with certain aspects of yourself. You've identified with those aspects, you've got something out of it, you've actually grown into them and become these identities, and they no longer, they can't be here anymore, they can't stay if you are to grow. If you are to really, truly open into a more expanded way of being and living and knowing and walking and talking and acting, and if you're to move into a greater version, a more free version, a version that's more aligned to the qualities of your real nature, of where true natural kindness, caring, loving, joyfulness, true happiness, true honesty, true openness, true innocence, true creativity, true loving. If you are coming closer and closer to what your true nature is in your human, then all that other stuff that you've believed into and you've acted upon and you've fixed yourself into and become and built a structure out of, that's going to go through, it is going through a breaking down. It won't work. It can't work. It can't exist. You can't be that while you're realizing you're that and move in. There has to be a death. There's a death and birth happening at the same time. So it's not always comfortable, right? In fact, it can be deep despair. It can be where you have to go and meet all the fear that has been sitting underneath in the basement, the loneliness, the meaninglessness, the ache, the longing, the fear of survival, the terror, all of that we are seeing in a large part of the collective. Many humans are going through a difficult and will be going through a difficult, because to actually be in a world where you don't know how you're going to survive and you've got nothing to hold on to, and you don't know what you can rely on, and you don't know, you can't rely on what you have relied on, and you don't know where it's going, and you don't know what has meaning anymore, and you don't know who you're here to be, then that can put you in a state of like deep despair, right? And there is a collective dark night of many, many humans now, as we watch the world events just get crazier and crazier and crazier. However, one of the things that I want to say, what I want to express is that the world out there is not actually out there, it's the way we interpret it, right? So we hear the news and we hear the next thing. We never see the whole picture, we see a bit of the picture. And wherever we are in ourselves, we interpret that. Depending on the state of our being, we're going to interpret what's going on out there. That's the interpretation that happens in our psyche and in the consciousness we're in. We interpret that. Through that interpretation, those thoughts, those feelings, those meanings that we give it goes back into the pool of collective consciousness. And this collective consciousness manifests into the next picture show of world events, which has an effect on all the humans that are focused on whatever part of that, the way they interpret, the way they feel about it, the way they think about it, all of that goes right back. So it's perpetuated. So you're affected by what you see out there and what you experience. You're affected by it, and you are affecting it. You are affecting everybody around you by the way you interpret who you think they are. You're affecting everybody by the way you think, by the way you feel, by the way you operate. You are affecting everybody close to you, and they affect everybody close to them, and that, and that, and that. You affect the whole world, and you are affected by the whole. You cannot separate yourself. So while we're in this incredibly amazing, unbelievable, mind-blowing transition of ego death and being transformed, being updated, being actually forced to step up. To choose wisely what you focus on. Ah, shit, I'm not recording. Someone wants to come in. Yes, okay. Record, okay. Record. Okay, so you are affected by everything around you and what you're looking at and what you interpret. You are affected by the whole, and you are affecting. By the same, you are affecting. So you are being called upon to be ever more conscious and aware of your own interpretations, your own meanings you give to those interpretations, your actions, your beliefs, what you attend to, what you focus on, you're going to get more of. And this is coming more and more and more clearly, easily seen, recognized, obvious. Because as a humanity, we are being changed. We are in a collective transformation, and there will be a loss. The world as we've known it, wiped out. There is no going back. Now, the way, when you hear that, when you hear these words, how that touches your system, how that, whether that brings fear or whether that brings a calling in you to, okay, you got one shot in this life, let's be here for what I'm meant to be here. Let's actually raise consciousness. And from my point of view, where I'm looking from, it's either raise consciousness or suffer. It's either wholeheartedly agree with yourself that this is the way it has to be, that you are focused on all that takes you into a more expanded, open willingness to learn the new, to go with the new and not cling to the old. A willingness to step up into the unknown of you and actually really fully be here. Because the river, it's easy to get pulled in the river into the rapids of fear, and you need to do everything to keep yourself focused on what opens you up, where freedom is, where joy is, where peace is, where truth is, where kindness is, where honesty is, where caring is, true caring. All these qualities that are of your soul. This is the way. This is the way. And it is much like a razor's edge, because the collective is we're all going through this together as one. And there are many that, you know, like when I first started to speak, I said that when enough people, when you've got a group of people who all believe in the same thing, that takes a reality. That manifests, that comes into manifestation. Because for the very fact that it's believed in, and it's believed in collectively, it takes form. That's how we're being like this in this magic show, like we're being shown illusion constantly, as if it's really, really there, like we can see a world out there, as if it's really, really there. There really, really is nothing outside of you. But the belief in everything that we are seeing on the screen, on the news, on the thing, and we hear about it and we interpret, and it's really happening. But it's only happening because we believe it into being. And this is our work, this is our reality, this is our human experience, right? That our attention and our focus and our belief is the birthing of reality. So with it all getting so crazy and there being so many that are struggling and suffering, and there's a lot of challenge on the table, you're going to need a whole lot more inner commitment and inner strength to really clarify and stay with what you are. You willing to be the change? Are you willing to be the new human? That stays true to these qualities. How you spend all your time, what you focus on, what you give life to, what you attend to when you wake up in the morning, what you attend to before you go to sleep, what your consciousness is given to. By cleaning up and being really committed not to allow your consciousness to go down in the dredges and get pulled in by collective fear and despair and struggle, but to actually be given to raising consciousness. I know for myself that it's a choiceless choice. So while humanity goes through this, and it's going to, it'll be going on for hundreds of years, probably this mutation. We're in a mutation, but I'm not going to go into that one right now. That's another same but different subject. We're turning into something else, And I started to speak about this 15 years ago after I really received the human design transmission, and people literally thought I was nuts. They were like, yeah. But now I think that there are more who would actually go, oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's the end of our species as we've known it. What an amazing time to be alive. What an incredible time to be alive. So whenever there's I haven't had the mic on all the time. That's a bit crazy. Have you been able to hear me? Can you raise your hand? Yeah. Well, that was a bit crazy. I forgot where I was. The dark night of the soul. Really, really, really. I mean, some of you watching this in this moment may have been through that yourself, when you really don't understand what's going on and you're just like passing through this dark tunnel where nothing makes sense anymore, and the life that you once had is over, but it hasn't. You haven't moved into the next, and you just lost meaning, and there's this despair. Many of you may have been through that. I went through that in jail. Before there's a moment of complete and utter exhaustion, and something breaks open. There's just this complete and utter change of values. What you once valued has no meaning. And you begin to value more than anything the ringing bells of truth. The ringing bells. Can you hear the ringing bells? I've lost my glasses. The ringing bells of truth. In the dark night of the soul, the ringing bells of truth. They're being heard. And in the depth of despair and sadness, the sound of this bell that's ringing breaks your heart open, where you start to taste, you start to break open, and you start to taste God, godliness. And the light comes in. Well, we are in a time where, through this collective dark night, there is profound opportunity. Like never before, for collective mass transformation of consciousness, to such a point that now maybe you notice that it's easier and easier to just know things, to just receive the guidance. To just immediately be in touch with your friends, your loved ones all across the earth and communicate. To receive the knowing of information without mobile phones and computers, to just be in touch with the non-separation of what we actually are. To actually be in communion with who you are through the field. The more and more that you begin to move from the truth that's alive in your heart, from the love, from the care, from natural peace, peaceful, joyful, natural being. The more you move, the more you honor this movement, the more it opens. You be the change that is being called for in humanity. Will you take it on? Will you be the change? Will you be the change in the face of that argument you got going on with so-and-so down the road? Will you be the change? Will you drop it? Will you drop it and not hold on to any grudges with anyone? Will you free yourself in every moment, in every chance that you've got? Will you free yourself from any kind of holding and from any resistances and from any stories that keep you small? Will you free yourself? And will you free, therefore, every other human in that movement? Every move you make, you are affecting the whole. Will you be the change? Are you struggling? If you are, perhaps it's part of the process for a little bit more letting go, a little bit more dying off. Perhaps it's actually where the doorway is. Couldn't have lost my glasses. So, we're going to open this up for a moment. I can find my bloody glasses. I can't see. It's an incredible time. We're living through an incredible time, and there's so much opportunity, but it's got nothing to do with what we've known. What we've known is over. What we've known in our humanity is the willingness to step more and more and more into and from not knowing is the only way. It's the obvious way, and it's quite freeing, actually. Scary sometimes, can be scary, but even that, in the end, what is the worst that can happen? The worst that could happen right now is I can't find my glasses. Ah. So, if there are any comments or questions, I will take a look on YouTube. Are you still there, Bill? I hope you're coming to Portugal. Are you coming to the retreat in April? If anybody would like to say anything or ask anything, you're welcome. Okay. For this, I'm going to need my glasses. For the phone, I can do it, but I can't. Give me a second. Just give me a moment. I'll have to. Yes. Okay, I can't find them, but okay. Would you like to? Is it Leonie?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Leonie.
Thank you for this. It's very helpful. Can you hear me? right?
Yeah, I can now. I can now.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. That's good to know that it's helpful.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a specific question really, but just
Where are
wanted,
you? Where
uh,
are you in this process?
well, kind of going through a lot of stuff. Yeah. So it's felt like a lot of despair and
Right.
just things like physical health,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
also,
I
yeah,
completely understand. I completely understand. I also.
mm, yeah, and I can feel what you're saying. It's like the physiology is changing, but there's a lot of, I don't know, yeah, despair around where it seems to be broken and not going anywhere. And
Right.
in the life, yeah, just a real collapse of so many things, yeah, and so many
Yeah.
people that I know kind of leaving their bodies, and
Yeah.
just feels like, yeah, a collapse,
Yeah.
on many levels, and
It's
feeling
amazing, isn't it? Isn't it amazing?
it is amazing, and it feels more, because I haven't hearing you speak about it, um, and being reminded, it is evolution, because in my little personal, if you like, story, there'd been just a feeling like I've somehow failed, and yeah,
Failed.
despair coming up very strong. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to fully go there, you know. You have to just fully go there and go through, out the other side. Because if you focus on that enough, you'll create more of it. You know, so if you really, really get the point that whatever you're going to focus on, you get more of.
Mm. Yeah, I've been seeing that. I've been seeing like
Absolutely.
it's like
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's
So
more visible and obvious, isn't it, now?
it's more and more obvious. Yeah.
Mm.
That's the self-responsibility that each of us has, is when we're waking up and become more and more conscious. The self-responsibility is when you really, really do get it, that whatever you focus on grows. So being awake means to have the ability to shift your focus and put it where you want it,
Mm.
because you're aware. So you see that you're going down in a dark whatever, and if your priority becomes your state of being, if you keep that as your number one priority, your state of being, because your state of being is going to be what interprets absolutely everything. Because whatever state of being you're in, that's where you're interpreting from. So if your number one priority becomes attending to your state of being awake and being aware, you have the ability to go, oh, how do I change my state of being right now? And there's a million ways that you can find that don't cost money, you know, and you can attend to that. And that's the responsibility, self-responsibility. How can you attend to your state of being? Whether that's through, there are many aspects of that. It can be meditation, it can be supplements, it can be exercise, it can be aroma, it can be what you surround, you can you can find in the darkest place, you can find where the light, you can find, I know because I know from experience, we can be sitting in a room full of so many objects, and where we're going to look, that's the world that's going to open up and become. And if we turn that over there, that becomes. It can be with a flower, it can be with an aroma, it can be with reading a book, it can be with listening to something that takes you deep into stillness, or it can be on your thoughts that are taking you down in a spiral of self-hatred. And so this is will you be the change? In fact, I was supposed to mention at the beginning, but I'm a useless marketer. I'm trying to do something about that, but I actually have a weekend intensive coming up called Break Free and Be the Change. And that's, break free and be the change. Be the change. We have to be the change. We have to be the change we want to see. So, all right, you failed at whatever you thought you should have or could have, but are you failing right now in this moment?
When I look at back, then it's like there's just a feeling of how I was very much more on track with all the things that you just shared, and then somehow life has so I was out in nature today, and I feel like that is the biggest healing.
It's so simple, and it's always now. Nature has nothing to do with the past.
Yeah, and nature is just love, isn't it? I was just seeing
absolute joy, absolute being. There's nothing to do with the future. There's nothing to do with the past. It's just eternity. It includes the past and it includes the future. And it's ever here now. It's telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Yeah? Nature doesn't lie. And that is the reflection of your being.
I kind of indulged myself, I suppose, in a way with some old patterns.
That's it. That's it. That is what has to end. Because in that indulgence, you keep yourself in the prison of, what do we want to call it? Small self-identity, in the prison of mind, in the prison of ego, story, ego self. What do we want to call it? Don't indulge. Cut it. And the thing is that who you surround yourself with, so you become. So you have to take care of your environment,
Yeah, I can see that. It's kind of in quite a big transition, and I haven't made my own.
You are not alone in it. There are so many, And I'm not going to go into my personal story right now, but I have my challenges too.
Are you in Portugal?
Yeah.
Oh, well, could be.
Yeah, I'm in Portugal. Got no idea. Next, got no idea. There's no stability on the physical. There's just this moment. Yeah. I have a beautiful retreat coming up in April. I know it's going to be a beautiful retreat. Which will be the first that I've held in a year Well, I was in Glastonbury, but that wasn't really, it was just meetings. Anyway, this is coming up to the hour, so it's gonna stop soon. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah. You know, your birthright is to succeed in what you came here for. So clarify what you came here for in this lifetime and give yourself to it. Don't look back. Don't beat yourself up. It's out of date. Don't beat yourself up. Clarify what you came here for and give yourself to it.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be reminded.
Remember, we have the Living Awake small private community, which we meet every couple of weeks. And we have a beautiful, intimate little group that you can join, you know. And if it's financial difficulty, there's, you know, it's like there's always something for free. There's always something. Okay. Hope to see you. Thank you, everyone. And we're in this together. We're all in this together. We're all in it together. You cannot be alone. Will you be the change? Will you be the change that's called for on this earth now? Are you here to break free and be the change? And if you're interested in my weekend intensive, the link is in description. Okay, ciao for now. Bye.